Hi, welcome. So, in the last video, we created a database which we are going to use in this video to do the select statement. That's the real DQL, the data query language, which is what the data analyst uses most compared to the other DDL, the other languages. So we are going to go straight to the select statement, and then we understand how to use that to be able to get some information from our data. So let's just go straight to the computer and see the select statement. So in the last video, we created this database staff DB, and then we did that using the script. So you can always check the previous video. The link to the script is there, and then so we have this database with all the staff demographics, and then we have the staff salary here. So here the staff salary, select staff from, and staff demographics. So the select statement, as you can see, it says if we show this, normally it's good to write them like this. So the select is saying select, this star represents every column. So select every column from this staff DB, which is this staff DB dot staff demographic. So it's the most basic statement in the DQL language, the data query language, which is what the data analyst uses to be able to select a specific set of like the columns. So let me just save this, so you can remember you can always save this like this. I'll show you save, and then you can just go to maybe here, go to SQL, then we can save it as a CSV file, or we can save it as an Excel spreadsheet. So let me just save it as an Excel spreadsheet, and then I could give it the name staff demographic. So you can still take your SQL back to Excel if you're more comfortable with that and the data is small. So staff demographic. So if I go to that, I'll just open that here. So go to that, I click on it, SQL, staff demographic. So when I click on it, it loads, and then you're able to see that we have the same data here. So you're just using SQL to be able to get this data out like this. So we say select this, and we got that data here. So now you could have said you just want to see maybe just the staff ID, which means in Excel you're trying to hide these three columns here like this, hide. So if you understand how to do this in Excel, how do we do it in SQL? So let's go back there. So instead, now this is where the star here, you need to change it to select staff ID. So it's already proposing that to me, and when I run it, you see we get the same thing. So which means that if, for example, I want to get maybe two columns, let me unhide this, and maybe the staff name. So I'll need to get staff ID and first name. So if I go back here, I say select staff ID, comma, make sure you spell it right, first name, comma, first name. Now it proposes that to me, fine. So first name, and if I run it now, you see I get the same thing. So if you want to understand the select statement, it's just that it's like when you're showing the columns you want to see, hiding or unhiding columns. So think of select like that, and I hope you understand it very, very easily. So we want to hide maybe last name and age, and only be left with gender. So it's the same thing. We go here, we just simply need to add gender here, and then we are able to get that. So if I add that, we get this, and this. So you can select multiple columns or single columns, or you just do the star, and then it selects everything. So it gives you the whole database here. So that's the select star thing. So now there is another thing that you must have noticed. There's the limit here. So this limit is set to 10 rows. It could be 100 rows. Let me run it. But because our data doesn't go too big, it's not a problem to it. So by default, you have 1,000 here. Now, let's say, for example, I'm using Excel because some of you are comfortable with, and then you're able to use it to understand better. So let's say in Excel, you just wanted to get just this. For example, there's a path. Let's say you want to hide like this. So you're trying to hide these rows and then get just this, for example. So if you go, let's get back every thing here on hide. So you want to get all of that like this. So you just go here, SQL. So, and then you'd say, select this from this table. And then what you just need to add here is the limit. Now you would say limit, let's say 3, for example. Then we run it. So we get just the first 3, just like we've seen here. So the limit now, if you have to understand it now, is just that it limits the number of columns you can see. So if you're using Python, for example, it'll be the equivalent of head, that head. So just gives you the first few elements. So you can limit that to just the first 3, as you've seen here, and then you're able to get just that as you get from here. So the another thing that you would have noticed is we have been using staff db here dot staff demographic, because we want to be sure that we are using this staff db database to get the staff demographic table. Because remember, in the previous video we said if this is out, you run it, you get this. But if for some reason this other one was highlighted instead for some reason, and maybe you forgot, then you run it, you get an error because it's not wall.staff demographic doesn't exist. So wall.staff demographic doesn't exist. So the one way of doing it is to always click here like this, or adding the staff db, or another way like we've seen in the previous video, you can still use the use. So use, so just to do your revision, if you haven't looked at the last video, use now staff db. So I'll just get that staff underscore db. Then I would say okay, run that. So you see it precises that you should use this staff db, and then you get this exact. So you might not need to specify all of this, but then as you've seen, you could still as well just take the full part of the database, this copy, then we paste here, for example, and then we get the full part of the database. So if you see staff salary is the same thing, select staff from. So if you run this, you get your staff, select staff from staff db dot staff salary. So let's look at one more thing with the select. So let's say here you might want to get let's just take an example of distinct here. So you want to know are these staff IDs maybe repeating themselves. So let's just take off this limit, for example, and we see. So if we run this, we don't know if 101, 102, 103, 104, if there's any double here. Maybe the data is so long, so you don't really know if this data is like having duplicates. So that's where you could say, for example, maybe you just want to check this staff ID column. So you say select distinct, that's distinct. Then now you take the name staff. So let's just say staff. Okay, let me get the capital on staff. So staff ID, and then let's run this. So it's saying okay, get just the distinct of staff ID. So if I go back to get this gender, we want to just like get just the unique male or female. So we can go back here and then we change this now to gender. We run it. So it just tells us that there are two unique values. There is the male and then there is the female. So this distinct is able to just like unique, able to tell you unique male, female. So if there were any duplicates in our staff ID, you will just see just the unique values. Same as with gender, we know there are only two possibilities, either male or female. If there was another error, maybe something that was wrongly written, you would see it here, and then you would already start having an idea of the data cleaning that you need to do within your data, and the issues or the errors or the data validation that you have to put in place for your data. So I hope you have been able to learn the select statement, which is the very basic for a data analyst. The first thing in the DQL is the select. In the previous video, we created a database. We used some statements like create, insert, drop. So in this video, we started looking at the select statement, select star from, select maybe this couple of columns. And we are trying to use Excel for those who are more comfortable with Excel to be able to quickly grasp the concepts and how those two interrelate. Remember, the tools are here just to support you, and then you can always do them in any of these tools in Excel or in SQL. So in the next video, we are going to move on to understand more about the where function. So see you next video. Wish you good data luck.